Hi guys, Mel the Train Tutor here again with another tutorial for you, and in this Back to Basics tutorial we're going to be looking at beveling bases. Now it may seem a bit of a strange sort of tutorial to be doing, but I get asked a phenomenal amount, what do I use for my bases, how do I bevel the edges, and I just thought, first I thought I'll do a quick video, then I got thinking, well actually there's a couple of techniques, and if you're going to do it properly. So what we're going to do is we're quickly going to talk about what material I use for doing my wargames bases, my terrain bases. Then we're going to talk about the various the few different beveling techniques and what they're suitable for and how you achieve them and what tools you do. And then at the end I'm going to show you how to bevel and smooth off your bases using no power tools, just sharp blade and a bit of sandpaper. Okay, if you want to skip ahead just to how I do it, without the power tools, there's a link up somewhere. Now, I have talked about quite a lot of this before in previous videos, but I just wanted to bring it all under one concise video. Now, when it comes to doing basing, I use 6mm MDF, as you can see here. Okay, it's just my personal preference. 3mm fine. You can use other materials. Just what you got, 6mm MDF. I like, because I find it easy to work with, and I'm comfortable with it. Straight off, warnings. MDF dust is seriously hazardous to your health. So if you're going to be cutting it, sanding it, or doing anything with it, wear a mask. If you're going to be using Dremels or anything like that, remember eye gear. That's the safety points done. So, right, I've got an array of tools here. But first, that's the material I use. Let's talk about the basic beveling techniques. Now, straight off, you have simple straight cuts. Okay, and that's perfectly fine if you cut your bases out like that. It really works well with things like fortifications, with urban builds, where the square base and the angular sides work with the actual terrain piece. What it doesn't really work with is when you go to sort of green fields and stylized wargaming stuff, because it just looks out of place having a square edge. I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying it looks out of place. If that's all you can do in the time you've got or with the tools you've got, it's fine, it's your terrain. But that is the most basic way of doing it. Now the next sort of basic way of doing it is, I should say, when it comes to cutting it out, you should be looking at, if you haven't got power tools, look at something like a coping saw. And if you haven't got power tools, then you're going to be looking at a jigsaw for cutting out MDF bases and just straight edge bases. Moving on, you've got what is sort of it's a stylized bevel. Okay, and what I mean by that is it's one clean sharp bevel at one angle all the way round. It's typically about 20 degrees, 20 to 30 degrees. It doesn't look like a slope, it's more a symbolic. To sort of say, look, this is supposed to be part of this table, this is just where the terrain has gone up a bit, with, this building or this rock or these woods or whatever. Okay, now it's the easiest to do, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, when it comes to doing it, you've got two choices. The easiest way of doing it is obviously using a jigsaw, but what you do is, if you look at your jigsaw, it's got this flat panel, and these flat panels are adjustable. I don't know, guide panel, whatever it is, but basically adjust that, tilt it to a slope so the blade is actually angled for your 20 degrees, and then always cut round in one direction, the direction that puts the slope on the outside. And that way what you get is, when you cut your bases out of your main sheet material, they come out straight with that bevel straight away, and then all you've got to do is a quick bit of sandpaper, just to smooth edges off and that sort of thing. So that's a really easy way of doing it. Now, if you, for whatever reason, perhaps you've got access to a scroll store and it's not got a tilting table, or someone's doing it for you, and you end up with bases with, straight edges. What you can do is use something like a Dremel, with an engraving, or a straight head engraving bit, or more typically what you call it, a sanding bit. And then whether the Dremel's fixed or whether you're doing it freehand, you can simply just go around the base. okay, and just give it that one sheen bevel, or that one simple angled bevel. Yeah, and that's really nice. It works if you're doing a lot of terrain, because it's quick and easy, especially if you're doing it straight off the jigsaw, because you know your beveling's virtually done as soon as you're cutting the bases out, you know, so you're reducing your work time, you're reducing your workload. Yeah, moving on from that, we've got what is, I'm not going to call them pro, but what people imagine as, you know, the more, you know, the more concise sort of beveling, yeah, which is where it's really smooth, and the idea is it's coming off and it's blending in with the table, yeah. There's no sort of hard edges, you know, the idea is it's supposed to look like a soft mound. Okay, now, typically when I started doing Wargames terrain and all this sort of stuff, you know, before I had these tools or I had anyone to sort of do these sort of bases for me and that sort of stuff, and I mean when I was like young, you know, my uncle used to cut my bases out and sand them for me, but when I was doing them, yeah, I typically did them with, with sharps, and I'll show you that technique in just a minute. But I know a lot of people are going to be asking, how do I do them now? Well, dead simple. Yeah, for Christmas my wife got me this, which is a £40 Black & Decker power file. Yeah, and I know it's not a proper belt sander, yeah, but compared to having to do it by hand, it is bloody brilliant. Yeah, basically, put this on a workbench, I clamp it down, and then I simply work round and smooth the edges off. Okay, like I say, I'd love to get a proper belt sander at some point, but they're a couple £100 and I've got nowhere to put it, so you know, that's a future thing. But that's how I'm doing my bases now. But I haven't always had these sort of tools, you know. For a long time I've done my bases by hand, and that's what, you know, a lot of war gamers who are starting off and that sort of stuff, you guys, yeah, that's what you want to know how to do. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how I do that by hand, and you know, so I'm going to move the camera around and we'll come back when it's all set up. I'll take you through the basic process. Okay, this one's going to seem a little bit strange since we're going for a sort of crop shot. I'll try and keep my crotch out of the camera, guys. Okay, yeah, I've got the camera angled this way and pointing down on my legs because this is where I'm sort of most comfortable doing this sort of work. Now, when it comes to producing really smooth bases, yeah, by hand without power tools, yeah, you can use things like rafts and heavy duty files, but it's a lot of work, to be perfectly honest, yeah. My recommendation is using a sharp blade. Now obviously this is a sharp, be careful, you know, get your hands out of the way and all the normal safety considerations apply. Now I extend the blade, and what I'm trying to do is I'm going to be doing a couple of cuts, yeah. The first one is going to come in at that angle, okay, and take off, you know, the majority of that corner. I'll then come in with another cut at that angle and then I'll sand it off. So very quickly, just to run through, yeah, if I come in with my blade, what I'm doing is, ooh, no. Helps if you have a sharp blade. Which this is not. I've got a better one. Let's try that. Better. Alright, watch my knee. You'll notice I'm keeping my fingers well away. It really is just like whittling. Don't worry if you can't get all the lumps out, yeah, because you're going to be hitting it with sandpaper next anyway. Yeah, good thing to sort of notice is, if you look at the edge, yeah, keep an eye for bumps on that edge, because that'll tell you how your bevel's basically going. Yeah, so if we bring it back down, it does make a mess, remember guys. Right, that's enough. Okay, so straight away you can see how I've sort of beveled that edge really quickly with, you know, that sharp, Stanley knife, X-Acto blade, whatever you want to call them. Next up, yeah, just some sandpaper. This is 60 grit, 80, 100 works. Yeah, and all I'm going to do is, and I'm not wearing a mask, so I'm going to hold my breath and then only do this very quickly. Yeah, I'm risking my health for you guys. Yeah, but listen, if you're sanding seriously, yeah, get a mask on. Pardon me. So there you go, have it guys. That is how I bevel my bases. Yeah, that was quick and easy using just a sharp blade, yeah, to whittle away the edges, and then just a little bit of sandpaper just to smooth it off to get that really smooth. I'm trying, can you see that? Yeah. It's worked out well. Very quick, really easy, yeah. No power tools required. So guys, that's a really, what you call it, just a brief but sort of comprehensive overview of, you know, the sort of ways you can bevel your bases, the tools you can use to bevel your bases, and how to bevel your bases and get that sort of smooth blended look using just an X-Acto or Stanley knife and an extending Stanley knife and a sanding block and a bit of sandpaper. Listen guys, I hope you found this sort of brief sort of tutorial back to basics video useful. As always, like if you like it, share it if you know someone who's interested in this sort of stuff and you'll find it useful. Yeah, if you've got any comments, anything to add to the video, yeah, throw them in the comments guys. As always, I always answer my comments. Also remember the Facebook support group, the Terraniacs. Yeah, if you're on Facebook, check it out. There's loads of support and loads of good builds going on in there. And then finally, if you really like what I do, check out the Patreon link and see about buying me a digital pint and say thanks, yeah? Anyway, in the meantime, I'm going to crack on because, you know, there's always more to do. Yeah, and I'll see you in my next video. All the best, guys. Ta-ra.